I have never met anyone that likes to pay taxes. At the end of every month, I hate seeing my paycheck and how much money I've had to pay in taxes that month that I don't even get to benefit from. Our tax system in our country is extremely complicated. The tax codes and processes are numerous and confusing. I've often wondered why our tax system can't be simpler. Surely there's a way to make it simpler. You may think that the words fair and tax appearing in the same sentence is simply never going to happen. But recently, an advocacy group for the fair taxation of Americans has put together a plan called the Fair Tax and has found a way to make those words appear together. Our tax system is extremely complex, and we lose over $300 billion a year in tax revenue because of tax fraud, tax evasion, and illegal immigrants who don't pay taxes. For the past year, I've done research on this thing called the fair tax. I've looked at the pros and cons and the arguments on both sides. I've come to the conclusion that this is a logical solution to our country's tax problem. The fair tax is a simple tax structure and would finally complete the vision that our founding fathers had for our country. We, the people, would get to choose how much money we spent in taxes each month, rather than having it taken out by the government. I'm going to give you some of the basic principles of the fair tax because many people don't quite understand it. First of all, the fair tax would give you your entire paycheck every month. No taxes would be taken out. The fair tax would implement a national sales tax that is even across the board. The fair tax would provide a monthly rebate for each family depending on its size, and this could be used to pay for the taxes of things like food and groceries and clothes, the things that we have to live. This would cover the taxes on those items. Next, the fair tax would provide fair competition for American-made products, because whether the product was made here or overseas, it would be taxed the same. Finally, the fair tax would abolish the IRS and prevent tax fraud and tax evasion. I'm going to present some of the myths that are faced by the fair tax. One myth is that the fair tax will not collect as much money as our current tax system. In all actuality, the fair tax will collect more revenue for our country than our current tax structure. Not only would we Americans pay national sales tax, but anyone who came into our country would pay that sales tax. So if an illegal immigrant is working here and not paying taxes under the current structure, he would pay taxes the same as every other American under the fair tax. Another myth is that there is no way to enforce the fair tax. Under the fair tax, every individual tax return would be eliminated. You would no longer have to file taxes. The only people that would have to file taxes are corporations that sell the goods and services to Americans. The IRS would be abolished, and these tax returns that the corporations file would be looked over by the Treasury Department. Because there are less tax returns for them to look over, they would be able to spot tax fraud or tax evasion much more easily. Another myth is that the fair tax is not politically popular. While it's true that most politicians don't like the idea of the fair tax, there are some that are coming around. Of course, politicians don't like the idea of the American people taking power away from the government. Last year, in the presidential election, 5 of the 8 Republican candidates and 1 Democratic candidate supported the fair tax. This is a start. In 2 states this year, the fair tax has come up for debate in state houses to find out if they wanted to try to implement it. Now I'm going to explain to you why the fair tax would work for America. The fair tax would give control back to the American people, which is where it should be, and would take power away from the government. As American citizens, we would get to choose how much money we spend in taxes every month based on how many things we decide to buy. Under the fair tax, more revenue would be generated for our government, which would enable us to start paying off our national debt, which has become ridiculous. As an American citizen, you can help implement the fair tax. We need to become educated on it. If you're not already educated, go out and buy the book called The Fair Tax by Neil Bortz. He's a popular talk show radio host, and he wrote a book to help raise awareness for the fair tax. It includes so much more information than I'm able to give you, and many, many more myths. Contact your congressperson because they have the power to change our tax structure, and if they know that we, the people of America, want them to change it, they'll change it. Because if they don't, we have the power to elect someone else who will. So next time an election comes up in your state, look at the candidate who's willing to support the fair tax and think carefully about who to vote for. You can see for yourself that the fair tax is a great alternative to our current tax system. The idea of keeping the money that we work so hard for is so simple, but such a great one. Who would not want to keep their entire paycheck at the end of the month and choose how their tax money should be spent? The fair tax has gained popularity in these past few years and will continue to do so if we as Americans do our part and educate ourselves and talk to our politicians about it. The fair tax is a logical solution to a very complicated problem. We need to elect the officials who will help us implement this plan for our country. It'll help get our country out of debt, and it puts the control back in the hands of the people. We, the people, are what made our country so great, and we, the people, have the power to continue to make it great in the future.